Hey folks, it's time for yet another custom lesson. This one has been requested by Masta1. The weapons are sword, and you can see the choices that I'm limited to. Hatchet, Sodachi, Switchblade, Splitstaff, Spear, and Sword. So I decided to go with Splitstaff because I'm a huge fan of this weapon personally. The cores in question are Otakemaru, Nightmare Bringer, Bakegani. And then this person doesn't actually use a secondary set of cores, but you know me, I'm going to. And the spirits are Baku and Ho. Now, one thing I want to make you aware of, just in the interest of full disclosure, is that I am using a Demon Horde Katana to assist me with anima, simply because I'm using Nightmare Bringer and that costs a lot. So I just want to have as many ways to generate anima, so that's why I have this. Otherwise, my split staff is pretty much the same as it always is. But let's get on to the Guardian Spirits. So first thing I want to make you aware of is that this player specifically requested Baku and Ho. But I decided not to use this simply because I find that using double brute can be incredibly risky. There are many attacks it is entirely unsafe to try to use the brute counter, whether that be quick grabs and whatnot. So I decided to go for Ho instead. This is not necessarily a requirement, but you can use O or whatever you feel like. It's just I didn't really want to have double brute. That is something that, like, unless you're super confident with your burst counter timings and whatnot, it's not something I would recommend personally. You can do it, but I just didn't want to make the game any more difficult than it can be. So let's talk about the soul cores on the Guardian Spirits and talk about some synergies. So I went with Baku once again, since it's a very powerful a powerful Guardian Spirit with corrupted based weapon play. Simply put, corrupted accumulation, melee damage versus corrupted enemy, and extra anima charge are all fantastic. And when you pair it with Nightmare Bringer with its special effects, and if you take it to rank 30, this on its own, just stat-wise, is pretty ridiculous. So it's awesome. The only stat I was interested in was Yokai ability Key Pulse, and that's pretty much it. Nightmare Bringer costs a ton, 10 anima. And so having anima charge over here, anima charge over there, and then the anima bonuses that I've talked about from my weapons, it's more likely that you can use this, which is great. Next up, Bakegani was requested. I quite literally just found a brute Bakegani, which I think is by default, so I didn't bother ranking it up, but of course you can, so you can take less damage and have a greater degree of block. Bakegani is an underappreciated soul core in my opinion. It can hit enemies in an arc, as you can see, and not to mention, it can inflict saturate quite reliably. In addition, it does a good amount of damage and break damage and key damage. It's like a really solid core, and it's only 4 anima, so it's really, really good. Highly recommend it. Next up, I wanted to steer away from typical key damage sources or stagger-based abilities. I wanted to showcase something that doesn't depend upon staggering opponents, but is still very valuable. And so I went with the ranged key damage option of Enki. I was just curious to see what it was like to have the anima bonus damage taken, because of course it's inevitable. You're going to take damage in Nioh. It's just a thing. So might as well turn that into a great anima generator. And that's why it's rank 30. Is it really that necessary? Not particularly, but yeah, it was fun to try. And with Nightmare Bringer costing 10 anima, again, having more anima is always great, which is why I have this, which you don't necessarily need. And I really just picked this for Yokai ability Key Pulse, but it's redundant with Nightmare Bringer already having it. In case you didn't know, all you need is one source of Yokai ability Key Pulse per Guardian Spirit, and you're good to go. In any case, Enki costs 5. You can use it as a quasi-evade, and it does a good amount of key damage. It's surprisingly effective. But let's get on to the secondary spirit, which is not Ho, it's Ho-Oh. So maybe it's halfway there, right? Halfway there? Okay. Ho-Oh is interesting. It's security-based weapon support, predominantly, which I won't really be able to take advantage of. I honestly just picked it because, and truth be told, I thought it was going to be Baku and Ho-Oh, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll just use Ho-Oh again. So forgive me for my tired brain, but you could use O instead. I wouldn't really recommend you use Ho. I know brute counters, double brute counters can be cool, but like I've said, it's pretty risky. But again, you can use these soul cores provided you have the attunement. I know on Ho has relatively the same attunement amount that I use, so if you really want to use that, you can. But being able to do the Phantom Burst counter is super helpful for many different situations. But enough about that, let's talk about the soul cores, since these are more or less irrelevant. The Guardian Spirit attack for Ho is cool, but yeah, if you're using corrupted weapons, this doesn't really matter. But let's go with the Otakemaru, since that was requested. This is one of the cores I 100% recommend you take up to rank 30. Why? You get more anima, and anima bonus confused enemy AA rank. This is freaking crazy. I didn't even take it up, and even just as it is on its own is ridiculous. I happened to find one with life drain yokai ability hit. Nullified damage yokai shift I guess is cool, but all I cared about really was yokai ability key pulse. Life drain is great, but yeah, definitely one to mess with. This is pretty good at inflicting confusion on bigger targets, not so much on smaller ones, but you just basically got a rain of swords going down as you are free to act, so it's pretty cool. But it is also quite expensive at 10 anima, so having that excess anima is really, really good. But let's get on to the other cores. I picked two that you're not going to see used too often, and one of them is Enenra. Enenra is one of those cores that I think is widely misunderstood, and so it gets oftentimes compared to Suiki, and it's like, hey, Enenra doesn't inflict Scorch that often. I'm like, no, it doesn't, but it's not as reliable for that. And it does do that, but it's not like amazing. What it is actually surprisingly good for is doing a good amount of key damage, and I'll have to showcase that more in the showcase. I just said that twice. I'll showcase that in the gameplay portion of this video, but you'll see that Enenra performs in ways you may not otherwise expect. So I'll leave that for a bit later. But it is a very powerful boss core, and I think once you understand how to work well with it and see it as a power play, you'll really enjoy using it. All I cared about was yokai ability key pulse, but actually that's not true. I really wanted the anima bonus scorched enemy because that's really awesome. So yeah, that's why I'd recommend ranking it up. We're going to be using a lot of anima, and Enenra is no exception, so let's make sure to get that. And then last but not least, I actually really wanted to showcase the Fox Spirit cores. I picked water because I just didn't want to deal with lightning. I find that using lightning against enemies can be a double-edged sword. It slows them down, but also throws up my timing. So I went with the water-based Fox Spirit, and this is a very low-cost core. The response time, which I'll show, is a little strange. You'd hope it'd be a little faster, but it is phenomenal at setups, and when you can work well with it, it is great. So yeah, again, if you still want to go with Ho, you can, but I don't recommend having double brute. But let's just see these soul cores in action. Let me get my controller back up so you can see what we are in fact working with. As a reminder, response time is going to be determined by the following. So I'm going to be holding block throughout the entire animation of a yokai ability, and then after I've used it, you're going to see the soonest my character will block, and that's how soon you can act. Also, I'll talk about other things you may want to know when it comes to the specific soul core. So let's start off with Nightmare Bringer. You can respond really quickly. Great. Also of note, with Nightmare Bringer, you can't activate a soul core for some time until close to the very end of the animation. So yeah, you do commit to it, but it's not like you have to wait for the tornadoes to expire before you can do anything. Next up is Bakegani. Overall, reasonably fast, pretty good response time. And then there's Enki. You jump up in the air, reasonable response time. But one thing I need to make you aware of with Enki is that you can see that it takes me some time to get into the air, which means if you're using it as a quasi-evade, you need to do it earlier than you might expect. So not just like, all right, I do a combo chain and something, and then I wait a bit, and then I do Enki. It's like more often than not, you'll probably get your feet clipped. So just bear that in mind. Next up, let's talk about these soul cores that I have, starting with Enenra. That is not Enenra. Might as well talk about the Fox Spirit first then. Let's try that again. Fox Spirit takes a bit of time. There's a little bit of a awkward delay, but it's not too bad. It's a very low-cost core. So bear that in mind. It's fun. I like it. I think it's grossly underappreciated. What about Enenra? Enenra is a big tornado, and you can control it in the same way you can control many movement-based soul cores. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. It is quite expensive, but it can be very powerful. Now let's see the response time. Very quick, in the same way you might have seen with soul cores like Suiki or even Wheel Monk. I do not, however, advise it for quick use. I advise it for some sustained pressure. In that case, it can be really, really good. But of course, that is expensive. Last but not least, Otakemaru. Very quick response time, and as you can see, you can summon the swords. Now, like Nightmare Bringer, you gotta wait before you can do anything. And in this case, you gotta wait until the sword animations entirely have expired. So yeah, bear that in mind. It is definitely really cool, though, to basically have sword rain everywhere. Pretty visually appealing. But alright, enough about that. Let's showcase some yokai shift stuff. And this is where things can get kind of cool. Alright, let's deplete your key, dude. Very nice. Alright, here's a cool thing you can do. Oh, it's dead. Sometimes in Yokai Shift, you can actually do Ho-Oh into Otakemaru. I've had that happen, which can feel pretty cool. Of course, Enenra. Enenra is actually a thing I would use if, like... And you'd be surprised with how Enenra performs in Yokai Shift, by the way. The thing is, if you have enough anima stored up in Yokai Shift, you can, like, just keep Enenra going for such a long time. Also, pay attention to his key bar. Do you notice it's actually losing a lot of key? So Enenra, while it may not be the best in terms of like fire stuff, it's actually kind of packs a punch. Not something you'd expect. But yeah, I'll show that more in the gameplay stuff. Now let's go with Baku. I'm sure you've seen Baku enough times to kind of know what to expect when I pair it with Nightmare Bringer. We got Quad Elemental Confusion. I know I've used Bakegani before, so this is fairly familiar too. Alright, let's showcase it again. Just some of the normal attacks, so after this. Very nice. You can also do this, which can feel extra spicy. Yeah, just a couple of ideas with Yokai Shifts. You have some very big power plays. Quite remarkable. But let's talk about how to just use these soul cores on their own, and some cool things you can do with them. So as a reminder, the Brute Attack is something that you can use to transition very quickly to using soul cores. It's a lot of fun. Here's just a couple of ideas. As you can see, quite effective. Enki is really effective as a ranged key damage option. There are many moments where you just will not be able to engage at close range. So just having that possibility is so helpful. So here's like another thing you can do. Quite effective, huh? Nightmare Bringer is going to be a little different. I like to do Severing Spin afterwards. It's pretty cool. It's just like, make sure nothing gets in there. And then if against humans, you can zero key combo them. And it's just, it's definitely one of those like spicy power plays. Let's showcase some stuff with the Phantom based cores. So when it comes to startups, I would say Fox Core is your friend for that. Also, you may have noticed, the Fox can in fact break horns. So it can be remarkably powerful if you know how to use it well. Otakemaru is just kind of something I throw out. As you can see, it didn't really inflict ailments that I desired, which is where Enenra comes in for that guaranteed like fire application, and also does a modest amount of key damage. Let me showcase it on a human. Yo! Kinda neat, huh? I guess I'm adding in a bunch of layers, aren't I? Alright, let's go back to Phantom. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. Aw, that would have been cool. I was trying to showcase something. I guess I'll showcase something now. Throw out Fox, wait a bit. If they're low on key, it can work pretty handily. Try it after a deft counter. There we go. That's always nice. Thank you, Enenra, for those sweet zero-key combos. It can pack a real punch. Otakemaru won't really work too well on humans. Let me just showcase it, just so you're aware. It's nice when it does, but look. I mean, 2 swords hit, and you know that this is the dojo, so things are going to be a little, I guess, scaled in your favor. Then Enenra, on the other hand, is pretty awesome. Very nice. Alright, now let's showcase some things with sword and Splitstaff. This is one of my favorite weapon combos, period. I just find it to be very fluid. So, sword, of course, and this is going to be obvious, is a short-range weapon, right? But Splitstaff has the ability to stagger lock opponents, and sword can do that as well, but it's certainly trickier. And Splitstaff does a lot of key damage in general, and it can be very flexible. So when you mix this in with how flexible sword can be, this can be extra spicy. So let's showcase some cool things you can use as an example. You can go into Shin Crusher. You can almost do a pseudo sheet swap. I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's too darn fun. The Splitstaff flash attack is really cool in my opinion. Here's some other things you can do with just the weapons. Don't forget, pre-shifting with Splitstaff makes it really effective. Oops. Try that again. So I like to do the dodge version of the attack for low stance strong. Extended, you can do a pretty quick flash attack, which is pretty nice. Here's something else you can do. Same thing can apply to mid stance. There's a lot of crazy things you gotta do, and for that I would refer you to my Splitstaff weapon guide. So just find it in the Nioh 2 Academy. Let's showcase some other things when it comes to this weapon combo. There's a lot you can do, and I like it quite a bunch. Ow, that is not a good example. Ow. Here we go. Reposition for a quick draw. Oh, guess not. I use the Splitstaff flash attack a lot. Woo, woo, woo. Ooh, close call. Yeah, just a couple of ideas. You always have the options of doing sheet swaps for a sword, which can be really nice. And Splitstaff flash attack can make things fairly seamless. So let's showcase that one more time, where I do stuff pertaining to the whole package. Good amount of pressure there. Splitstaff flash. Go right back. Very juicy. Oh, close call. Alright, just chopped off his arm. Alright, let's showcase the whole package with everything. Just to, again, give you some ideas. Go, go, go. Pretty powerful, isn't it? Alright, let's continue going from there. Cool. And dead. Alright, one last time. Let's murder a human. Then I'll start throwing in Yokai Shift, but we both know that they're gonna die. Throw it in now. Oh, you're so dead, dude. This is not even a contest. Alright. Put the Yoki. Ooh, extra spicy. Alright, you're kind of dead, aren't you? Yeah, he's kind of dead. Pretend he's still alive. Alright, what you got? Get that Enenra going. Are you gonna die? Yeah, of course you're gonna die. Throw out Otakemaru, because why not? Yeah, this is pretty spicy. It's pretty crazy, so there's a lot of power you can do with it. Alright, let's I guess this is the final time. I just love this weapon combo, man. I can't friggin' help it. Hey, not cool, dude. Hey. Alright. I think that's enough. In any case, I am now going to move on to the gameplay portion. I will see you guys there. See you guys in a bit. So let's put this setup to the test. Later, I will be fighting a purple lightning gods of Yomi. But first, I've got to deal with a ton of very irritating enemies. None of these enemies are particularly difficult. You can see I use Enenra to help me inflict fire. There are more efficient ways to do so, and the most efficient way in this case probably would have been taking out the the fire Onibi, and then using that. But I didn't do that because I didn't really have a brain, and I just wanted to showcase what's possible naturally. And what's nice is that if I scorched enemy and confuse them, I get a ton of anima back. So that's pretty cool. And another thing you may not have noticed there is that Enenra actually did a good amount of damage to that Onibi. And you wouldn't think it would because it's a fire-based Onibi and using a fire-based attack. Here's a cool example of using the Fox Spirit to set things up. So just things look really cool. I got that confusion going. Look at all my anima I'm getting back, which is extra good. Nice. I'm back to like 7-8 anima, so this is awesome. These Onibis just annoy me. Look at this. Constant interruption. Constant interruption. So I'm like, whatever, fine. We'll just use one of the quickest attacks I have at my disposal. And now on to the final toxic slime. Bakegani made quick work of it. Not too bad. But in any case, we're going to be dealing with purple lightning gods of Yomi. My gosh, if you want a frustrating enemy, this is one for you. So Yomi's difficulty lies in several factors, but probably the most apparent one is simply going to be she shocks you, and then you're slow, and then you got to deal with her pretty much shocked the entire time. And so that is very frustrating. If you didn't know, if you use a lightning stop talisman, don't really have to worry about that part of the fight. But that doesn't make it any easier. As you're going to see with my yokai shift usage, it's not perfect. Because why? Yomi has huge hitboxes. She just hits everything, like everywhere, shocks everything. And those melee attacks are the most tame part. But she has a ton of range, and look at all these lightning clouds everywhere. Big, massive AoEs that you have to keep track of. So even with the fact that I'm not getting shocked right now, it's still quite a lot of stuff I have to pay attention to. I try to showcase some power of Enenra. You'll see really how Enenra can shine a bit later in this fight. But for the most part, I am constantly trying to make sure that key level is going down, but it's very difficult. Even with me getting burst counters off successfully with the Phantom, and again, this is why I don't recommend going double brute. But again, it's very difficult to deal with her because there are many moments she generates yokai realms, and she's purple, so that key recovery that she's going to have is going to be devastating. And see here, your instinct is going to be to go away, and rightfully so, but then she regenerates a ton of ki. It's like, god dang it, how do I deal with this? Yes, I'm getting the burst attacks parried, more or less. Here's a decent example of Enenra. I was able to inflict a good amount of ki damage, but you'll see it like much later when I get her close to low health. But yeah, I'm just trying to set things up constantly, and I'm trying to take advantage of the fact that there are a lot of moments to punish her, but you gotta play smart. This is quite troublesome though, regardless. Just things going everywhere. You can see that I've kind of used up inflicting status ailments, specifically in the elemental variety. This attack's always annoying because they can just trip you up, but you can usually dodge all those projectiles at the same time if you pay attention, even when you are shocked. So she spawns 3 at the same time, you pay attention to the cues and you're good to go. Here I'm trying to take advantage of Enki because it is really frustrating to be fighting her at close range. and she's just, it's quite a test of endurance. There was a moment that if I had to use Phantom Burst, it would have been appropriate, but if I'm in Brute, then yeah, I'm not going to take that risk unless like I'm playing on point, but that's just straight up risky. Look at all these massive AoEs she has, like mine don't really compare to them. In any case, I've got her key down, I throw out Nightmare Bringer, and you can see I'm not really applying the elements anymore, so I can't depend upon that. I need to depend upon other ways to really punish her, and so it's just going to get tricky, which is why you'll see me use the Splitstaff a lot, trying to inflict as much key damage as possible. Unfortunately, I got shocked, and at least the fight is balanced around that, otherwise it'd be so frustrating. Alright, here's a decent example of Enenra when it's not going to work out well. Again, Enenra is best used as a power play, in my opinion, when you have a good amount of anima to spend. And yeah, let's just see what's left. Yomi doing Yomi things, shocking everything everywhere. And you're like, please stop the spam? Look at all this, shocking all the things. Alright, but now I've got a ton of anima, right? And I set up a Fox Core, okay, not that big of a deal. But now that I've got like 18 anima, watch how I can use Enenra, alright? Watch all this key damage. It's pretty good. Look how long it lasts, get all that key depleted, go into Yokai Shift for nice finishing touches. So I use Hull, throw out Otakemaru, start attacking, and she's basically dead. So yeah, handled. Was it frustrating? Absolutely. Yomi is a frustrating boss. In any case, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was entertaining, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!